Red Boiling Springs can best be described as small.
It's a sort of a sleepy town, very few problems.
We don't have a lot of industry here.
Big industry isn't apparent on Highway 52 as you drive through, but now there's a new sight to see.
They'll do some stuff with hay, but not that elaborate.
They're colorful, they're vibrant, they're just picture worthy.
A lot of people has asked me, are you sure you did not use a stencil? I said, I freehanded it. I said, the good Lord must have been with me to make it happen because I'm not an artist.
A larger-than-life tribute to President Trump rolled in hay, a spectacle on Adrian Powell's farm.
A lot of support from the locals that I didn't think that was here.
I think it's great. I think it's a little overkill, but that's fine. He wants to do.
George McCrary lives next door. While he's impressed by the artwork, it's fair to say he's still feeling blue.
And I wanted to say, in a big way, that I was a Biden fan. Now, it seemed to have stirred up the rest of them a little bit. So they have countered me with several Trump signs, but that's okay.
The friendly competition seeing problems over the weekend as Powell's flags were cut down the middle. He says the teenagers responsible have all apologized.
They got to learn that we do have to respect other people's property.
But there's still concern of what could come before the end of this election.
Everybody says it will go up in a smoke. If it don't, then I'll let the cows eat it.
One thing is true, no matter who they support, this small town still has each other's back.
We all still get along, we're all still neighbors, and that's the way it should be.
Officer David Snowden lives on 2nd Avenue, and he's now displaced by the bombing. He was off duty when it was all going on, but because he's so familiar with the buildings, he was able to give entry codes to other officers to help in the evacuations and to help save lives.
415B9 to 411 Charles.
He's the voice you hear radioing to officers in the released body cam footage just before the bombing.
Go for 11.
Officer David Snowden lives on 2nd Ave, and his story of Christmas morning is similar to those who reside there.
We were awakened by gunshots and listening to what we thought were high-powered rifle shots.
But as others tried to decipher what was happening, the off-duty officer jumped in to help.
I called and contacted Officer Hosey and began to give her codes so that she could enter into the buildings to evacuate the area.
Snowden says he knows many of the property managers in the area and could hear the sense of urgency in the other officers' voices.
In order to get officers in there, they had to have those codes to get in.
Snowden was still in his 4th-floor apartment when the bomb went off.
Had actually knocked the windows out of their casing.
And like others, he's now displaced but still going to work. In fact, he put on his uniform and worked Christmas afternoon.
Ryan, it was one of the first times that I have ever had those lines blurred of trying to separate personal from professional.
For now, he's taking each day one at a time, knowing he made a difference that morning.
It forever changed, I think, my life, no doubt the life of my fellow officers as well.
Officer Snowden says that he will never forget that day and says the 6 officers that were out there Christmas morning are the real heroes. Ryan Breslin, News 4 Nashville. Besides being in line to get merch or attending Taylor Swift events, the one thing that all Taylor fans want this weekend is a ticket to be inside of Nissan Stadium. One woman warns to be cautious to not be scammed.
I've just had them this whole time, and I never even had a feeling that they were fake.
It was just this week that Alyssa Gatlin learned the Taylor Swift tickets she bought from someone on Facebook weren't real.
It came through in an email, you pulled it up, it looked 100% legit. It did the little conversion, opened my Apple Wallet, and popped one pass up.
It all seemed legit, but when one of her friends could no longer go, she tried selling the extra online. Someone posted that her ticket looked like the same one she also bought on Facebook and found out it was a fake.
You know, I immediately started panicking because I was like, you know, no, like this can't be happening to me.
Going back into her messages, all correspondence with the seller had been deleted, and that person was actually using the pictures and name of another.
said I'm the 7th or 8th person to message her in the last month or so and tell her that she sold them fake tickets.
Not only is Gatlin out of $800 with no way of a refund, the single mother also has to break the news to her 6-year-old daughter, who she promised to bring.
I couldn't tell her. And then this morning she was listening to Taylor in the car and she said, is she going to sing this one? You know, and all I could think was, yeah, she's going to sing it, but you're not going to see it.
Gatlin says they're still coming to Nashville for all the Taylor events, but is warning others to be cautious Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, trying to get last-minute tickets.
Don't let the desperation of trying to take your child or trying to go see her or trying to do, you know, trying to get to this once-in-a-lifetime type thing literally steal money from you.
And people online say that if you aren't buying your tickets from Ticketmaster or a third-party seller, use PayPal Goods and Services. It adds an extra fee, but might just save you from losing money. In Nashville, Ryan Breslin, WSMV4.
Sports are everything to me growing up. I played sports, every sport you can imagine at some point or another.
As a child, Jake Martino played in both high school and college sports before he transitioned.
When I imagine myself now, putting myself in the shoes of kids today, where their first encounter and understanding of transness may be hate speech, that's really, really sad and can have really terrible effects.
Last year, a law passed in Tennessee only allowing students to compete in athletics by the gender listed on their original birth certificate.
Instead of it solving an issue that exists of like inequality, this rather just is a paranoia move that just simply targets children that need our support.
The ACLU is currently suing the state over that measure. While being litigated, the legislature passed another law this year adding penalties for school districts that don't comply, taking away funding if they allow athletes to play on teams as the gender they identify as rather than their biological gender. This debate making waves on the Senate floor.
What has happened between the last year and this year that necessitates this legislation?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know of a specific incident, but just felt like that the bill was passed, but there was no requirement for enforcement or no penalty for non-enforcement.
So why this kind of legislation?
Transgenders participating in women's sports will destroy women's sports. It will ruin the opportunity for girls to earn scholarships. It will put a glass ceiling back over women that hasn't been there and sometimes.
However, doctors with Vanderbilt say there's limited data in the gender diverse population and it's hard to quantify advantage in sports. A pediatrician pointing out their transgender patients may have their earliest state of natal puberty blocked and never really see high levels of testosterone or estrogen in their bodies. So advantage could be a little bit of your genes and a little bit of how much you practice. Advocates say not only should schools let kids play without fear of penalty, they believe sports develop healthy physical and mental health habits that are important for growth.
It's definitely discrimination. And like I said, I think fear-mongering, because I think there's just a lot of people who aren't very familiar with trans people. And so it's an easy, perceived niche issue to make a stance about and scare people on.
Another new law will also go into effect on July 1st. The governor signing a collegiate transgender athlete bill for Tennessee. It would ban transgender athletes from participating specifically in women's college sports. The NCAA Board of Governors voted in January in support of a sport-by-sport approach to transgender participation that they say preserves opportunity for transgender student athletes while balancing fairness. Ryan Breslin, News 4 Nashville. Belltown, the area of Kingston Springs where Deja Brandon grew up, doesn't look like home anymore.
Sorry, it's hard to look at because to me, I'm like, my childhood's gone.
The land dates back to her great-grandparents.
Foundation is there, relatives, cousins. That's where it all started.
It's one of the first spots News 4 got a glimpse of, seeing the devastating damage in December. I want to walk all the way down. We are in Kingston Springs. We were there as rescuers worked to lift a trailer off of a woman Deja knows her best as Aunt Vicky.
She opened the door, and there it was, trapped right between the steps and the house was on top of her.
These stairs themselves right there, these are cement stairs.
In any other storm, Vicky would cross the road to Deja's mom's house.
Because it's a more stable foundation.
But this tornado came too fast.
Vicky called her and was screaming. So my mom had heard her get trapped. She just remembers her screaming, and she was like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. And my mom's like, no, you are, you are.
And she did make it. Almost 2 months later, the road to recovery is still long.
She lost everything, car, house, and fortunately her best friend, her little baby.
Peaches, her dog whose injuries were too severe.
So she basically will be starting all over.
Watching her now from her hospital bedside, Deja knows there's pain that comes with the positivity her aunt is trying to show.
I would switch places with her any day so she wouldn't have to go through this.
Even though her home lifted from the foundation that December day, the family's foundation isn't broken because Vicky survived.
It's going to just be a long road, but she's not on this long road by herself.